Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I chat with the author of 14 books and counting. She wrote a book called, basically she wrote a bunch of books about things that suck, starting with pregnancy. But her newest book is called Finding Paris, a Novel. And it's her first fictional book. And she talks to us today about the differences between writing fiction, nonfiction, self-publishing, and using a publisher. So enjoy the show today with Joanne Kimes. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you want more bonus material and to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/La Vie Creative. And also don't forget to check out Amazon, where you can pick up my new book, Paris, A Life Less Ordinary. In the book, I talk about my creative adventures in Paris, from starting my business to being homeless, hello, starving artist, to how I met all these wonderful creative people. Don't forget to check it out on Amazon. And also, thank you so much once more for listening and for your support. Enjoy the show. So welcome to the show, Joanne. It's so nice to meet you. I say that in air quotes because it's over the internet currently. But also, I've been reading a lot about your books and what you do, and it's fascinating. And also, you have something very interesting to me that you know about is going through self-publishing and also through a publisher when writing books, which are two things I'm struggling with right now with my own book. So I'm very interested to talk to you, and I would love for you just to tell people a little introduction about yourself, what you do, where you're from.
Well, first of all, yes, I have 14 books, and every one except this latest has been through a publisher. So I'll be happy to tell you all the inside scoop. But I'm from Los Angeles, and I always loved to write, and I used to do like a little family newsletter. And then I could write my way out of any book report in school that I didn't even read the book for. So I figured I had a talent for it. And in LA, you sometimes go to TV show tapings, and I went to a TV show taping for a show called Family Ties that was a million years ago with Michael J. Fox. And I ended up writing this. Yeah. Do you know that show?
Yeah, I know that show. It's a good show.
Yeah, it was a good show. And I thought, I can write a script like that. So I wrote a script and I sent it in, and I actually got a phone call from the producer who said I had talent and I should pursue it. So that's how yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That's huge.
So again, living in LA, I worked in TV production, and I got some just crazy jobs working as like Pee Wee Herman's assistant and even Tom Smeller's assistant.
Way.
Yeah, and a lot of just crazy TV shows and production. And then I got a chance to start writing, and I just loved it madly. And I worked on shows that probably you would never know, like Sweet Valley High and Roundhouse, and it was on Nickelodeon, and some kid shows. And
I was a Nickelodeon girl. I definitely heard some of those names.
Do you remember Nick Jr.? It was on Nick Jr.
Of course. I was all about Nickelodeon. I was not a Disney girl. I was Nickelodeon all the way. You guys were edgier.
We were very edgy. In fact, the show I was on, Roundhouse, was created by the head showrunner of In Living Color, if you remember that.
No way. Oh, that's definitely edgier.
It was definitely edgy, for sure. And it was a lot of fun. And but then, I got pregnant, and I really thought it would be 9 months of bliss. I just heard pregnancy is the best time, and I just was miserable. I'm very short-waisted. I don't have a lot of real estate going on in my torso area. And there just was not enough room in there for a kid and me. And I was just miserable, and there was no book that kind of I could relate to. So I wrote a book proposal and sent it out to a couple, maybe a dozen publishers. And I got a phone call it was actually during the worst time of a woman's year, which is when she's trying on bathing suits at the mall. And I got a call from a publisher saying they wanted to publish the book. So that's how I fell into becoming an author.
I mean, it sounds like you just kind of got that ball rolling and it just happened because it was supposed to. I mean, that's crazy. First, like sending in the script and saying, you have a chance at this. And then the book proposal. I mean, so many people send out book proposals and get nothing back. And then your first book, there you are, and 14 books later.
Yeah, I think that my trick was being so ignorant. Number one, I had no idea legally you're not ever supposed to send a script into a TV show without being
Really?
submitted. Yeah, it's totally illegal. And then the book thing I fell into because I really didn't know how to do it. But I think if I could give any tip to anyone is try and make your proposal unique. Like for me on the cover of my book proposal for the book Pregnancy Sucks, it was called Pregnancy Sucks, and I put my 9-month pregnancy picture on it where oh my God, I was so big. I swear, it didn't even look like I was carrying twins. It looked like I was carrying a minivan. I was so big. So I put that on the cover, and even the editor said that that's how she picked me out of the slush pile. So if you can kind of
Wow.
make it unique, that's how I would recommend.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, even editors are human, so it's whatever's
Hmm.
gonna stick out, and be different. It's
Yeah.
gonna, yeah, it's definitely gonna draw attention.
Well, also, I realize you're normally supposed to send a submission to a publisher through an agent. And although
Mhm.
I did have an agent with my TV writing, they didn't do anything with books. So I once again kind of sideswiped the system and just sent it in directly to the publisher. So I'm not sure, if that's allowed. I don't think it is, but that's another little mistake I made that ended up paying off very well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like mistakes, any of it. It sounds like it was good to not know what was going on so you could
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
all these things. That's actually a great tip for our listeners who are worried about all the lights being green and I don't know this and I don't know that. Just go for it,
Yeah.
obviously.
It's funny. My grandma, she lived to be 99, and she said the last 25 years of her life were by far the best because she could get away with doing anything. No one's going to like pull an old lady aside if there's a lipstick missing from a department store or whatever. All she has to say is, she gets away with everything because she doesn't know it. And I think that part of that is true, even when you're, younger. I guess, don't always play by the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to that. I think growing old is a gift, and like to be able to use
Yeah,
that as like getting away with stuff sounds even better.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Not a bad thing. So you read all these books about everything sucking, which I also want to look at those books about pregnancy sucking because, like you said, no one's really talking about how much it sucks.
Oh my god. I
But
know. Yeah, what happened was it became a bestseller, which was crazy, and then they asked me to do a companion book called Pregnancy Sucks for Men. And I thought, well, okay, well, no, it doesn't.
how?
Exactly. But I'm not going to turn down a book deal when it's asked me. So I end up interviewing a lot of men. And you know what? They really said it does suck, but they would never, ever say a word about it. So I wrote that one. And that just led to like breastfeeding sucks, and potty training sucks, bedtime sucks. Then there were like dating sucks, dieting sucks, the grammar sucks, Christmas sucks. That's when they got me on the Today Show because I just had such a passion for writing Christmas sucks because I think the day
Oh,
itself is wonderful, but I just think all the stuff the stress that swirls around that day is just miserable. But anyway, so
yeah,
I like
it's a lot.
doing that one.
Just like weddings and things like that. It's a lot. There's a lot
But yeah, I
going
wrote
on there.
planning a wedding sucks because that's the only time my husband and I ever really fought before we got married was about planning that wedding, and we ended up
Wow.
eloping because it just was just not worth it.
I mean, a lot of people do that nowadays, and I think it's kind of cool because at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of money for other people to eat. So it's like, why not just go have a vacation?
That's very true. That is very true. Yeah.
Wow. So, how did you go from all these suck books to your latest book, Finding Paris, a novel? Tell us about that.
Well, after a dozen titles, that was really the end of the series. I kept trying to pitch more, like "Aging Sucks" or "Marriage
Hmm.
Sucks." That'd be kind of fun to write, but they just said no. We're pretty much at the end. So I took a couple years off. Honestly, what happened was my daughter started college. On this is such a sideswipey story, but I took like 3 years off. She got a rare disease, and I spent the next couple
Mm.
of years honestly researching it and finding doctors that would treat it. And luckily, she's absolutely fine now. But
Good.
but so that's when I'm like, I need to I want to start writing again. And I take this. I love French and everything French in Paris. And I am in my local library every Tuesday. I would meet with a group of French speakers. Although I'm not one, we're all interested in speaking French and know it to some level. So I was sitting in my little Tuesday morning French class, and I had this idea for a book about two people that become friends at a French class. And then, their lives kind of implode and they just set off for this adventure. And so I thought, I'm going to start writing that book. It was my first fiction book, which is completely different than nonfiction. Nonfiction, you're just basically telling something that happened, whereas this is
Hmm.
300 blank plate pages that I had
Yeah.
to fill. And I ended up loving it so much. I really just, the book kind of, it was like just solving puzzles. What's going to happen? How
Hmm.
are we going to get there? And it was just an adventure that I want to have. In fact, one of the characters is pretty much based on me to some level. A woman that was a TV writer who got lost in parenting, just that whole helicopter mother way of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And the other character is just a workaholic. And so they're
Hmm.
basically two women that are just kind of overwhelmed with life. And they go to Paris, and Paris, not only to have this adventure, but Paris teaches them what they need to to get their lives back on track, even for the better. Because you guys do things so much differently than we do, and there's such great lessons.
What are some of your favorite lessons that you kind of learned while writing? Like you would say that France gives people.
I think and again, I just know the fantasy version of Paris. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I know and what I've learned is the France basically embraces a work and lifestyle balance. You guys have work, but you also enjoy apéro, and you take a month off of vacation, and you have a family. And in the United States, it's just work, work, work. I
Hmm.
totally not only admire that, I think it's just so important. I love the way you guys have long lunches. I love that everything is just so beautiful, and you wouldn't put a bite of food in your mouth that wasn't just to be embraced. And
Hmm.
you don't sit in front of the TV and gobble up a bag of chips. Um,
Yeah.
the sizes of the food on your plate aren't gluttonous and leave you just sickened. It's just
Yeah.
the beauty of everything you do, every building you build, every sign, your fonts. Just look at the charming fonts in the boulangeries. They're just the colors. Everything about it is lovely. I live in LA,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
if anything's built after 1970, it's considered, or before 1970, it's considered an antique, and it's just not the same charm.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. That's one of the big reasons we talked about this before we started recording is I thought I'd spend a year here and then I'd leave, but that I've been here 8 years now. So it's just things you do. You adapt to the culture. And I think also I've talked to my American friends about this, that it is hard as Americans to adapt to that because we do have it like kind of brainwashed, ingrained in us to work, 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 and
Yeah,
feel guilty if you're not working and be productive and get the bigger thing. But the French kind of come in and they're like, hey, calm down.
yeah.
And you're kind of forced into like enjoying life, which you shouldn't be forced into.
Right. Well, and again, this is just my experience in Paris. This is kind of something that I wrote about in the book that I visually saw when I was in Paris. It was at this little park, and I saw these mothers with their kids. And unlike, I mean, God, if you could just do a right side and a left side video of these two scenarios of a park with Parisian moms and then American moms. American moms are, little Jimmy, don't touch the sand. I need the sand. Go up that high, blah, 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 like it's, they give them 3 minutes warnings before they do anything. And the Paris moms, they were just sitting there chatting with themselves, and they looked beautiful. They weren't wearing, moo to hide their baby weight they couldn't lose. They were wearing belts, for God's sakes. They
Yeah.
weren't wearing sunglasses to hide their bloodshot eyes because they, slept 3 hours. It's just, the kids, it's just a different way to raise your children. And as a mother that was just overwhelmed with the rules of how you do it, and you have to, if your child's having a tantrum, you do these 7 things to make them stop. And oh my God, you have to eat the organic, and you have to have the 8, 10 hours sleep a night. It's just overwhelming, and you don't say no to your child. You explain things, and it's just so different. And it was just that's the other storyline, is the woman who's the helicopter mom who learns the lessons to get her life back on track, who's given up everything for the sake of her child, and she's goes to Paris and realizes the error of her ways.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The moms here, they put themselves and their relationships first, it seems to me. I'm not a mother, but from what I've seen from my friends and French
Yeah.
women in general, the kids are not the center of the universe here.
Well,
And
it
it's really
shouldn't be.
interesting.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
absolutely shouldn't be. But when you come to see America, it is the opposite. The kids are at the top of the parenting food chain. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and the husband gets locked in the trunk of the car. It's just not the dynamic for a healthy
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, it can be scary. It's something that I struggle with. I'm like, I don't want to lose my relationship if I have children. But then if I look at like the French relationships, I'm like, well, they seem like they're doing all right. Like,
Yeah,
but I
well,
see like
and
I
they
kind of have that American mentality. I'm like, oh my God, I'll lose my husband.
well, and they should because the kids are here, with you for 18 years, obviously more, but
Yeah, at
and
least,
yeah, at
yeah.
least, but then they go off and you are still with that partner. And
Hmm.
that's who you do need to put on the front burner, in my opinion. So
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway,
no,
that's the lessons that Paris teaches these women because you guys just do things in many ways so much better.
Yeah, I'm excited to read the book. It sounds really fascinating. And I just recently read a book called Still Like an Artist. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
Well, in that book, they talk about this idea that, nothing is original. Like everything's been done,
Mhm.
but the way we make it original is doing it through our own voice. And how do you feel about that with like Paris books? I'm sure to prepare, you read a lot of Paris books and to think about, what you wanted to say and things. Do you feel that anything can be original and authentic in today's world, or do you think we're all just putting our own spin on things?
Well, I mean, I've heard my whole life that nothing's original. So, I used to write for TV, and
Hmm.
every time we'd write a script or think of a story idea, oh no, they did that on who cares, Mary Tyler Moore show. Oh no, they
Yeah.
did that on Big. Nothing with TV was ever original. It was just told a little bit different, maybe with an iPad instead of a piece of paper and a legal pad or
Hmm.
legal pen. So I do think that it's hard. Obviously, the more things we invent, there's more originality. Like now we can take Virgin space whatever rocket into for $200,000 go outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a unique story to write. So there is some
Yeah.
original ideas, but but I know for me, I actually didn't even read a lot. It's not like I even did research for this book because it's just two individual women that go off for an adventure. So
Hmm.
and it's honestly, my goal was to go to Paris in around February and just get the details. Because as much as I've been to Paris 4 times and I do have Google, I know there's some things that any person who lives in Paris will look and say, "Oh no, that's not on that street." Or like when I went to Paris, I loved this cooking school, La Cuisine Paris, and I wanted to. And they go to the cooking school. They go to, one of the characters goes to the pastry class, but I had to kind of move it outside of where it was and put it in the sixth arrondissement. So people
Hmm.
are, there's errors in that kind of thing. But anyway, so I couldn't get to Paris is all is all I'm stating. So there, unfortunately, I just can't seem to get into your land. No one,
You you will get there, and you're taking other people there through your book.
yeah. Well, it's just an adventure. It's just romance and gosh, and French countryside and salted butter and um, you know it's conflict and drama and female friendship. I tried to throw everything in there.
I love that. Female friendship is a big theme in my life since moving to Paris. So I really appreciate those themes. And I'm curious, why do you think that creative people are attracted to Paris?
That's a good question. I just can tell you why I do. Um, it's just such a fantasy land. As soon as you get off that metro station and you go up that, you get out, you get onto the streets, and that first look is so overwhelming. It's so stunning. It's as if you're on a movie set. You guys just probably take it for granted. Every time you go down another street, your head is probably down or something. I just remember looking at a fountain and just a regular fountain that you guys plop in the middle of a street, and it should be housed in a museum. It's so stunning. There's beauty every single time you turn your head. And I don't care how many times I turn my head and see the same vision when I'm there, it's just so beautiful. Um, that's just why, again, I think it's compared. Maybe if I lived in, I don't know, some other place. I mean, I don't think LA is particularly beautiful. I think you have the ocean and the mountains and things that are beautiful in it, but it's not like a city filled with beauty. So when I come there, it's just a dry sponge that's seeping in, water. It just so beautiful to me.
Yeah, definitely. Living in LA, you could talk about the movie scenes in Paris. I mean, you see them shooting movies here all the time. So, yeah, I think you do start to get jaded living here, and we have to sit down and be like, yeah, this is beautiful. Like, this is really
Yeah, it's like,
pretty.
oh, I have to eat another, yeah, and I have to eat another croissant, and I have to eat another beautiful, meal with, I mean, everything you guys do is just thought provoking. We have we have an expression here that's basically done is better than perfect. And, you guys would
Mhm.
never do that. You would just do things to perfection. And I just appreciate that so much. I really do. I just absolutely appreciate it. So, one day I'll get there. I don't know when. It's as soon as we can lower our COVID numbers, I guess, which will never happen. So one day, you're right. One
Yeah,
day it will happen. One day I'll
it
get there.
will happen. It has to. And
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people who are searching for their creative talents, of people who think they're not creative at all? Do you have any advice for them?
Um, I would, it's funny because I would basically say the standard follow your passion, but I know what it's like to think you don't have any passion. I personally say that all the time. And yet, like I just got into making bread and how much I loved making bread, or I love, um, oh, I just learned how to do fondant on cakes and I just made all these adorable little animals. So maybe there's something inside you that's still waiting to come out. But I do think if you have a passion, um, I think the best advice I ever got, at least for writers, is when one of my English teachers said, "Write what you know," and I think that's really important. So even like my 13 books, if I didn't know the subject, like I hadn't been divorced, so my friend Mary Jo, whose husband actually left her for Tori Spelling, she
Oh,
actually wrote
wow.
that book, and I just edited it. Yeah, so I don't write anything I don't necessarily write, but like for Christmas Sucks, when I had a passion for that, I ended up being on the Today Show for that one, and that was really cool because when you write what you know, you have the details, and it's writing is all in the details, and if you have those details because you know so much about it, it just comes out so much better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You should know what you're talking about, and then you feel more confident doing it as well. So, if you're searching for something, just do what you enjoy already.
Yeah, I do think that. And I don't think you should ever think of you becoming a huge success with anything because that should never be the goal. I think
Hmm.
and it's like tapping into the Paris or the French style that just as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, then you're a success. That's
Hmm.
yeah. We don't necessarily believe in that here, but but
Yeah, yeah.
I do believe in that myself.
And can you talk about your writing process a little bit? Is there something you do that you kind of prepare yourself to write, like with a long
Yeah,
walk, meditation?
I actually have I was someone asked me what if I ever had writer's block, and I will say in all my writing I've never had it. And I think it's because when I first started writing my books, my daughter was in preschool. And so I
Mm.
would drop her off and I would come home and I would have 2 hours to work by the time I had to go get her again. I didn't have the luxury of writer's block. So what I did is I always had a detailed outline. I think an outline is the most important thing. It saves you aggravation and time. And then I also never sat at my computer unless I knew what I was writing. I think most of my writing goes on in my head instead of before it goes in the page. So,
Mm.
and I always I would know what I was writing for that day, whatever chapter and what was going to be in it because I had my outline. And I would honestly either take a walk, like you said, drive, or honestly, when I woke up in the morning was my most powerful brain time for some reason. And I would solve all those little puzzles of a joke or how to get to something because you always want to know where you're writing to. So I would always, try and think of how to go down that path. And I think that helps me a lot
Do you know the endings of your books before you write the book?
because I have an outline. And believe me, there are so many writers, and they say, I hate with a write. I hate outlines, and that's fine for them. But I mean, literally, Finding Paris took me 6 months to write. By the time I
Mm.
had the idea to the time I wrote Fin, Fin, because it was in French, it was 6 months. And then, of course, then you have to give it to your friends to help with typos, which, by the way, are endless and they still come up. But, to write the book, and it's because I always I had that outline, and it's easier to move things around when it's bullet points than when you have written dialogue and you have written the details because I hate throwing anything I wrote away. So I
Hmm.
try never to do that. I would honestly like ruin a book just to keep 3 paragraphs or 3 jokes that I've written from it because I hate throwing things away. So the way I solve that problem is an outline, and it can always move around, but I always find it's like dominoes. If you move things around, that just won't fall over when you push. They have all
I
of us
like
go to
that.
it. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's my
Would you say
suggestion.
you're a purist in that way? Like, I don't change it. It is what it is.
No, I absolutely do change stuff, but that's when I realize I get into trouble because you change something and you don't realize that you've already mentioned it, like you've hinted to it 3 other times in the book that now won't make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Or because you've changed that, you whatever happens in the future might not be correct too. And it
Mm-hmm.
all goes down to that rough, it's just a rough outline. It literally is like, you know, like they're like, two women meet at a French class. That's chapter one. But how do they meet? What do they say? They have to become really fast friends. So how do we get there? And that's what,
Mm-hmm.
and then at that point, I would never sit at a blank computer and just decide how to get there. That's when I would figure it out beforehand. And then I would write just like a really rough draft of that. And then I would kind of go back like a really wrinkled sheet that you're ironing. You just keep going back and back over and over and over again and add more detail and move it on. And I would never polish it. I never polish it until I really polish everything, because I might want to use a line later. And I'll just, I never want to fall in love with anything I've written until it's basically everything is done. So
I like that. Yeah, you just go through it all and then you decide, what's going to change, what's going to move, if at all.
yeah, so I like having a rough draft, and then I'll fill in the blanks. I'll fill in the blank more, and like I said, to me, it's kind of like ironing that really wrinkled sheet until everything is just nice and sharp and crisp, and
Hmm.
then it's like the best thing in the world.
I like that. And I think the outline is really important as well. I'm kind of an outline person as well, where I want to know where I'm going. And for me, it helps a lot. But like you said, everyone is different.
Yeah,
So it is whatever works.
whatever works. But I have a friend that wrote a book, and it took her 2 years, whereas it took me 6 months. And she never
Hmm.
uses an outline. She is now for her
Yeah.
next book, so I'm curious to see how that one's going to go. And it's fine. She has 2 years, and it's how she wants to do it. That's fine. I would. No, no, thank you. I couldn't have the patience
No,
for it.
thank you.
No, I would never have the patience for it. I like to look. I was like the second fastest delivery in the hospital. They told me I like to get things done. You go in, you go out, you move on.
Yeah, you're a mover and a shaker. I
Exactly.
respect that.
But that's good. You're
And
writing a
how do
book
you,
too. I mean, that's exciting.
it is exciting, but I'm sure, I don't know, can you remember what it was like releasing that first book? Like,
Oh
how are
my
you feeling?
God. I tell you, because I go through a publisher, and it takes so long by the time they tell you want to write a book till the time it's actually out. It's like a year and a half, I think. It's so long. But then they send you author copies, and you open up that box, and you hold in your hand that book. Oh God. And then, back then there was bookstores, and you go to bookstores, and I'd always turn my book around or put it up somewhere so people would notice. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it's like a newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
want to show it off, but you're also very protective of it.
Yeah. Well, if you ever come to my house, I have lots of author copies to give you, because after 13 books, it's a lot to store. But anyway,
I'm sure, but that's amazing. 13 books, 14 books. Wow.
yeah.
That I aspire to that. And how do you define creativity?
Oh, I'm trying to think of an answer for that, because I personally, I think, and there's absolutely exceptions, but I admire people who may not be that creative, but they are so organized and structured and follow through, and they have their list. And that's a part of brain I do not have. Um, I will like I clean things and they're twice as dirty when I'm done. But I think being creative is just honestly, it's just well, I was gonna think it's maybe when you do something and you lose all track of time. I know that happens to me sometimes. That's the goal, is when I'm writing, and all of a sudden, 3 hours go by. But
Yeah.
I wonder if non-creative people have that with their organization, or their writing of their brief for law school. I don't know. But I just know, for me, it's such a when it's right, and when you write something well. I have a blog, and I wrote this article, this blog post a couple days ago. It's so hot in LA, and I wrote a blog post because I have a website based on my Sucks series called Sucks in the City, and I wrote heat. What is it? Heat waves suck. And it's just 3 paragraphs, but I wrote it and I was laughing, and I was like, that rarely happens when I make myself laugh. And when you do, it's just fun to do. Although I got comments that it was so funny that my parents actually called and worried that I was depressed. So people obviously read things differently, but in general, it was fun to make myself laugh.
Yeah. All right. So going back to the heat wave article, like we were talking about, there's no tone for writing. Like there's like a tone font, really. So your parents thought you were going crazy, but that was not the case. You were just having a
Well,
good time.
I was writing in the article about how hot it is, and basically, how, I'm so old that in a few years I'll basically be, 6 feet under the surface of the earth, and the cool earth or something like that. And they, of course, called me thinking I was going to kill myself. So
Oh
I guess
God.
that's how you interpret it. But I guess the point was, though, that it's always the sweet spot when you write something and it's just how you want it to be. Again, it's not this little heat wave article, but if you're writing a book and you get it and you're like, oh, that's how I can get them to do this. Or, and then you write it and it just flows so well. There's even one part in my book, and this has never happened because I've never written a novel, where I wrote something I thought was really, really sweet. And I'm not saying I cried, but I maybe got a little water in my eyes. I thought it was really sweet. And it's
Oh.
so rarely, especially again with fiction, I never created characters before. And I can see now, I've heard, authors say, oh, well, my character wouldn't do that. I'm like, well, you're writing your character, for God's sake. You can have them do whatever you want. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do understand it now. They take on a life of their own, and you're kind of proud when they do something and you're sad when they don't. It's the weirdest thing.
That's fascinating, though. I mean, now from writing both fiction and nonfiction, which would you say you prefer?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Well, it's well, here. Sorry to make this specific, but I was mentioning my daughter had a disease, and I actually wanted to write a book about it because I think it would help anyone who has an unusual physical ailment, like not a copper
Mhm.
cold or even the basic, but she had a rare disease, a heart
Yeah.
rare disease, and really, honestly, if it wasn't for these support sites and the research and trying to find one of 8 doctors that would be brave enough to give this certain medication,
Wow.
we'd be talking a whole different scenario. So, but I think I wanted to write this book to help anyone who's in a situation where you just listen to the doctor and think they're God and just do what they say, and how to navigate insurance. And I wrote a proposal which didn't sell. Um, and, but I really loved writing that. It all boils down to a passion. I had such a passion for it. And that's what I think really is the best, the best type of work you can do. So that was fiction, but obviously nonfiction is more creative, I think.
It's all about getting into that flow state at the end of the day, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, I like them both. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
picking a child, which one do you like best? Although I think I
Yeah.
always do have a favorite, but um, in general, I just think that's what I like them both. They're just different.
And where can people pick up your new book?
It's sold on Amazon because that's the world now. There are no bookstores. It's called Finding Paris, the novel, because ironically, I didn't know once I was done, and I even had the cover all designed and all, that there was another book called Finding Paris. So mine is now called Finding Paris, the novel.
I love it.
I
Whoops.
didn't even know that was a legal thing to do. I guess, of course, it is, but I thought it was like TV shows. You wouldn't have the same name of a TV show. But anyway, so it's Finding Paris, the novel. It's out on paperback and ebook and Kindle book, and that's where you find it.
Wonderful. And where can people find out more information about you?
My website, sucksandthecity.com.
I love that. Sex in the City. I only have one more very important question.
Yes.
What was it like to work with Pee Wee Herman?
Pee Wee Herman was a dream. He was so kind. I swear, he was so serious. And the funny thing is he took his show so seriously, and also he loved kids. We would have a Make-A-Wish kid come once in a while, and oh my God, he would make sure that no one smoked on stage or near stage. It was, that they got access to everything. If I say was, he still is. I'm sure I don't keep in touch with him. An incredibly kind man.
Oh,
And
that's good to hear.
yeah, he was lovely. And if anyone is a Smothers Brothers fan, what I thought was interesting with that is I was Tom Smothers' assistant. And Tom was the one, if you know their show, because it was so long ago, he was the one that was like the blubbering guy, and his brother Dick was the serious one. But in reality, oh my gosh, couldn't have been farther from the truth.
You had the real information.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was just a night and day kind of thing. Dick would be out there, eating granola bars, and Tom would just be, smoking and serious and worried and whatever.
They were not their characters.
Yeah. The truth behind all the Hollywood glamour. But no,
I love it.
Pee Wee was absolutely lovely.
Well, you've lived a fascinating life, and I know that you're going to get to Paris one day. But in the meantime, you are a writing machine, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. So, everyone, pick up Finding Paris, a novel. And thank you so much for talking to me, Joanne.
You're so welcome. I was going to, one last thing, I was going to say the dream is if Finding Paris does well, I could do Finding Rome, or I can do Finding Auckland, New Zealand, whatever.
I mean, come on, you're the series girl. You can do this. Make sure you add a novel at the end of each one.
Exactly. I will. Anyway, but thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.